It doesn't make sense what they're doing, and it's sad.
It hurt a lot more than I expected it to hurt, to be honest.
It's not a sound decision. It seems like there's too many exceptions to the rule.
I think it's a little silly.
I think it's disgusting that they're going after small businesses.
A lot of other people are doing exactly the same thing and not facing the consequences. It's entirely subjective up to the liquor inspectors.
Remember in the middle of the pandemic, people weren't doing this. No one was going out to eat, and they definitely weren't sitting inside a restaurant. So the government made a rule. It allowed you to take out wine and beer with your to-go order. Lots of businesses took advantage, including Pat Nicastro here at La Bottega.
We did it for 2 years, and it became a very popular spot to get bottles of wine. We worked on it. We developed a great business plan. We brought in a lot of wine, all the wines you wouldn't find in the LCBO, and they were special wines and special bottles you couldn't get, and it was very helpful.
So then what happened?
And then we got the AGCO had an issue with our location here, and basically told us we weren't allowed to do it, and we've had to stop. We're still confused, and they haven't been very helpful, the AGCO. They haven't been able to tell us what we did wrong. They treat us like we're just a number. It's really sad. I don't want to jeopardize my liquor license, which we continue to use and sell wine with consumption in the store. So we're grateful for that, but we don't want to be treated any different. We don't want to be picked on anymore. So we've had to stop, and it's really hurt our business.
But not all businesses similar to Nicastro's are feeling that pain. Take this shop in Toronto, for example. Under a restaurant license, Eataly sells wine and beer alongside produce, dairy, and other grocery staples, and say they haven't had any issues at all. It's exactly what Tony Zacconi had in mind when he opened up this place in Ottawa's Little Italy. You're seeing other people doing the exact same thing and not facing any consequences.
That's right. A lot of other people are doing exactly the same thing and not facing the consequences. The problem is it's entirely subjective up to the liquor inspector. So if you got a liquor inspector that doesn't like you, that wants to make a name for himself, or doesn't really know, or doesn't really care, he wants to beat his chest and to play the hall monitor. That's who I unfortunately got, and so now he's shutting me down. He's saying that it's from that's our directive from head office, and if the AGCO head office is in business to try to shut down small business, which is supposed to be the lifeblood of the of the economy, I'd have a hard time believing that.
Can you show me where you used to have everything?
Sure, yeah. So now, where there was beer and white wine and champagnes and stuff like that was all here. Now it's all non-alcoholic stuff, and I put some produce over here. And right here I used to have 50 different types of wine, maybe more actually.
The Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, or the AGCO, is responsible for carrying out the Liquor License and Control Act. It says the goal is to be transparent, consistent, and work with all liquor licensees to ensure they understand the obligations under the Act. To help, the AGCO has this online tool, which helps break it down. Business owners can answer simple questions to see where they stand. Most restaurants with liquor sale licenses can sell takeout wine with food, unless they're located in certain spaces, including convenience stores, department stores, big box stores, and grocery stores. That's not allowed. But wait, can't you sell beer and wine in grocery stores? Yes, you can, but it's under a different regulation that came in way before COVID. And all those licenses are taken anyway. Ontario only gives out 450 of them. And that's the part where it gets messy. The interpretation of the rules of each inspector aren't always the same.
And him in his head, he just said, no, that's a grocery store now. Even though you're allowed to drink it, you're allowed to consume your alcohol in here. So he acknowledges that it's still a restaurant, that you can actually consume alcohol in here, but because there's some groceries around, you can't take it out the door.
Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. If I can consume it in here and you acknowledge that there's a restaurant in here, then I should be able to take it out the door.
How archaic is it that they can't get wines in a market that sells cheese and meat and takeout stuff? It makes no sense.
Experts say the gray areas within liquor laws dates back to just after Prohibition. The rules are there, they're kind of applied, sporadically based upon complaints. It's not black and white for sure.
This gray area is really interesting because it gives the government the sort of flexibility to apply the rule or not. It's something we call in academia street level bureaucracy, where the person on the ground doing the enforcement has that wiggle room within the law. And it's intentional in these sorts of laws.
The food and alcohol connection also dates back to the 1930s. At that time, if you wanted to dance and drink, you also had to eat a meal.
I've heard these apocryphal stories. They don't come up so much in the records because people wouldn't tell the liquor control board this, but where there would be like a plate of sandwiches passed around from table to table to make it look like they had a meal, and then people would pay a premium on their receipt so it looked like they had a meal, but they weren't actually eating anything. They were just going out for drinking and dancing.
We checked out other businesses that have been selling alcohol to go since the law changed during the pandemic. They also sell grocery items along with their wine and beer and say they hope they're doing it right.
And I think that there are, again, kind of some gray areas that it's even hard for us to get an answer from people. But I think that all in all, it's been a good thing. I obviously hope that it continues.
Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of guidance at all.
Do you have inspectors come in here very much?
Never. I've never had an inspector come in here.
Never once.
Maybe when we were applying for the liquor license, I think we had somebody come just to take a look at the space, but that was 5 years ago, and it was brief.
So why can they offer alcohol and grocery items and others can't? Well, it all comes down to the definition of a grocery store. The law says a grocery store that is able to sell wine and beer has to offer a variety of food products, including produce and dairy. And the food must take up at least 10,000 square feet of retail floor space. Problem is, both Nicastro and Zacconi say they don't fit that definition. They're not big enough and say they're being unfairly targeted. Zacconi's even asking customers to sign a petition. What do you want to see change?
Well, I want to be able to just sell alcohol like I was before, the way that Doug Ford promised, the way that all other restaurants can sell their alcohol.
I want to be able to open again. I want to be able to do what I've been doing, what everybody else is doing. If you're going to make a law, make it the same for everybody else.
Black and white.
Yeah, there's too much confusion, and that's not fair that they targeted some businesses and not others.
We've been asking the AGCO for clarification on how liquor sale laws are applied, but they didn't provide an interview. In a written statement, the Commission said it can't comment on specific cases, but that every case is assessed on its facts. It also said it has seen a very high level of compliance with these new rules across the province. So, what have we learned from all of this? Well, the law itself is actually pretty clear, even though everyone we talked to for this story calls it confusing. The confusing part is how it's applied, which all seems to come down to who's enforcing it.